Oh, let me do this because this is very important here. Thank you so much to Triple A Finity LLC for the lovely, lovely donations. Thank you. I really appreciate you. I want to get back into Trump versus Ilhan Omar, right? Briefly talk about that because her ass is about to be deported. She's about to be deported, and Trump is coming down heavy on the Somalis, and he should. So I want to play a couple of clips here.
Anyway, those people,
the people from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
What are you talking
You got to talk up.
She said how many countries?
Is there a list?
Well, I guess we gave you 19, right? There's probably more than that.
Is that what you mean when you mean third world countries, those 19?
No, I don't think they're all third world, but in many cases they are third world. They're not good countries. They're very crime-ridden countries. They're countries that don't do a good job. They're countries that don't register from the standpoint of success. And we, frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about denationalization,
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
And this is
I think that's hyperbole. If she's been sworn in as a citizen by a federal judge, there's not much you can do to undo it. But it's an expressive point.
Well, if she's brought up on some charges, that could undo it.
No, it can't.
Okay, so let me play this clip here.
Yeah, it won't.
Also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. There are also violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee in both 2017 and 2018. She was found guilty of the violations by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board 3 weeks ago in order to return those funds on June 6th. Ms. Omar appears to be a serial career criminal and should not have access to our nation's highest secrets and intelligence. That is why I'm calling on our Congresswoman Angie Craig to protect both our national security and our respect of the rule of law. Tax fraud, immigration fraud, student loan fraud, perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and campaign abuse fraud from the East Coast to the Mississippi River. If those charges have been...
So, and this is her.
I mean, I have no worry. I don't know how they take away my citizenship and like deport me, but I don't even know like why that's such a scary threat. Like, I'm not the 8-year-old who escaped war anymore. I'm grown. My kids are grown. Like, I can go live wherever I want.
And she can because she's worth $20 to $30 million.
You know what? Once you take that oath, you can't strip somebody of their citizenship. You just can't strip it. You can put them in jail for criminal activity, but you can't deport them because they're citizens of the United States. Do you swear to uphold the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You do that, you're in. I mean...
So what
That's
is
been a long, I mean.
So even if you got your citizenship under fraudulent circumstances by marrying your brother?
Well, that's not the whole thing. The thing is, she was administered to the oath and sworn in. And Whether or not all of that is fraudulent, you got to go through a whole lot to prove that. And you just can't send somebody over without their due process of law, even if it's a civil due process matter. So, yeah. And trying to prove that in court and get the witnesses in there to assemble and do it.
So what would they have to do?
Well, the point is not really a mechanism to undo making somebody a citizen. They just become part. It's like, can you undo being born here?
Okay, so, but she wasn't born here, but
Well, I mean, it may be fraudulent, but
they
somebody,
can't revoke her citizenship.
that's not really going to happen. It's
So,
more of a talking point where it's awful and it becomes a political matter because what they're talking about here is stuff that Congress can take action upon.
well, what about, can she be stripped of being a congresswoman?
That's up to Congress. They did it and ejected Adam Clayton Powell twice. He was ejected. His constituency reelected him and returned him, and he was not allowed to be seated. Congress can refuse to seat someone, or they can impeach someone.
Oh, Congress can impeach another congressperson.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
Or they can refuse to seat the person or eject them.
what does that mean?
That means you aren't in the Congress anymore. They refuse to seat you.
Seat you in Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate.
Yes.
So it says here, right? This is Benny Johnson clip. Donald Trump confirmed that Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud and married her brother. It says Minnesota Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey. While the worst congresswoman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddle hijab and who probably came into the country illegally, and that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she's been treated. I guess this is a quote from Trump. Let me hear what they're saying.
Yeah, because I got like I'll break a little news on this. I'm pretty close with a lot of people at Homeland Security, and allegedly there's a considerable amount, demonstrable amounts of evidence that the government has that proves this. And perhaps they're like trying to figure out which way to go around it. I know it's got to be a touchy issue, obviously, you know. But what do you say to this, Congresswoman?
A little too touchy for family, but you know, in Congress, it's going to be really difficult to have a real investigation like we should. Look, Nancy Mace bravely put a privileged resolution on the floor condemning the remarks made by Ilhan Omar. And Ilhan Omar was trying to troll everyone in the process leading up to the vote. And she just simply wanted to censure her. She said you should not be on the Foreign Affairs Committee with the rhetoric that you have, and then of course it went against our Congressional Code of Ethics that we agree to when we are signed in as members of Congress, and we
you have a code of ethics. You have a code of ethics that says you can't marry your brother.
you know that might need to be put in, but we definitely have a code
I think that's
of
in the
ethics.
Bible. Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Our Bible.
Yes.
And so anyway, you had Republicans block that. You had Republicans table this motion, maybe some making excuses for the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't protect you from consequences. And when you have a code of ethics that you are using your office to absolutely defy, there needs to be accountability there. And, you know, maybe some were just covering their own backs to keep other stories down. I don't know the reasons why people were voting to table this motion, but to have an actual investigation, I don't know if we have a strong enough Republican Party at this time to actually commit to that and get it done. But this is someone who absolutely should be investigated. I think she should be sitting in prison or at least sent back to Somalia, rather than George Santos being put in solitary confinement for telling a fib, years back. This is, that was gross that he was expelled from Congress, and the charges that he got. I'm advocating for Santos's pardon, and I would much rather see Ilhan Omar having consequences for her conduct rather than him.
That's a good point, because Santos, yeah, he was found guilty on fraud and stripped of his position and put in prison. So if she's found guilty,
What is the crime?
it's they're saying campaign fraud, tax fraud, immigration fraud.
Okay, well, if they convict her of those things, then they can proceed against her for impeachment purposes and remove her from the office. But they have to get the convictions first. See, there's a problem. If you try to go at these before you get a conviction, then you start running into an interesting problem. What do you have to say about so and so? Respectfully, I decline to answer. I stand on my Fifth Amendment rights in line that may tend to incriminate me. So, that's that Ollie North thing we were talking about earlier. When we were talking about Fannie Willis and not being roasted by the Georgia State Legislative Committee. So she may still be subject to that. I think Trump still hadn't been in office for a whole year yet. And there's plenty of time, but in Georgia, maybe they are holding up on the political aspect of it, and somebody in the midst of everything is putting together the material to present to a grand jury to get an indictment. And they don't want to ruin the case by any political grandstanding.